Good afternoon. Welcome to Monday Mug Mentions, Week 1. I'm going to, over the course of a cup of coffee, talk about a few things in the game industry, mostly tabletop game industry, that either interest me or things I'm checking out or things that I think were interesting that came across this week. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is I'm always each week going to try a new type of coffee. This week's is called New England Coffee's Centennial Reserve. It's pretty good. I cannot complain whatsoever. Hello, Zach. Thanks for joining. For people that are joining, I'm going to say your comment back on air because I'm going to put all of this onto YouTube, and we're going to have a nice little segment each week where we just talk about some different things in the game industry. So, again, this is New England Coffee's Centennial Reserve. It's a medium roast, and it's pretty tasty. Okay. That being said, the first thing we're going to talk about is a mechanic or mechanism. Going to be a lot of M's here, the Monday Mug Mentions. The first thing is going to be a mechanic or mechanism. The second thing will be some media I'm interested in. I'm glad to see that I saw Gabe pop in here. That's actually one of the folks I'm going to talk about. And then marketing is another one that I'd like to talk about. So I'm going to try and wrap that all into about 20 to 25 minutes for you each week. So a mechanism or mechanic that I'm interested in is I'm going to do both tabletop and video games, so let's get right into that. This is sort of an interesting correlation. I played a video game recently called Slay the Spire on Steam, where you're deck building, but you're upgrading cards over time, and your cards get better. And you have a better card pool to draw from. And it's a very interesting take on having a video game sort of emulate board games, but do things that a board game really couldn't, to the full extent of being able to just continually upgrade a card or continually upgrade a card pool. I guess the correlation to tabletop would be things where you can buy more cards or you can get more things, but realistically, in real time, you can't go, boom, this card is now upgraded. There's a few video games that do this. But I did play a deck builder recently called Path of Light and Shadow, and I actually own it. It's really good. I've been enjoying it. Where you upgrade your cards when you're deck building to the point where you sort of go in and promote one unit to another type of unit. So you actually can look at what those will be and see what your upgrade is worth, and it's a really nice play on that. So I thought there was some sort of nice similarity there between Slay the Spire, where you're sort of leveling up your cards and you have this nice deck building roguelike where you're going through a dungeon, and then Path of Light and Shadow is sort of a very interesting area control game with deck building. But again, when you're promoting these cards, you're sort of going in and you're saying, I'm actually promoting my, loyal servant into a sort of a noble knight or something like that. And each one gets leveled up, and then they've got better things that they do based on different game elements. But it's the first game I've seen where you really get that, like, you get to level up your card, but you know what's coming. You're promoting into a certain deal, and eventually you can promote into a unit that's completely epic and is the only one of that type of unit, and the first person to promote to that type is the only one that gets it. And I thought that was neat as well. With Slay the Spire, it's a solo game where you're playing against an AI and you're just this brutal dungeon, and you're trying to get through all the levels. And what I find interesting about Slay the Spire is that it's not doing a ton with like updating artwork between the upgrades and things like that, where some other games like SoulForge, I remember they had 3 different levels of card. You would upgrade the artwork along with the power levels and stuff like that. So I think there's something to be done there. I've seen AEG has their game. There's Mystic Vale, and there's a new game coming out with this, the sort of card sleeve upgrade. I guess that's the closest to the digital take on this sort of deal, but it sort of lives better in the digital space. It's much cleaner. It doesn't take up as much space. You don't have to use these sort of sleeves that are pretty difficult to manufacture in reality. They're just not super simple for the rest of the industry. I know AEG is working with them well, but I think it's interesting that Path of Light and Shadow seems to accomplish that with just an upgradable card deck of different factions that you can go in and promote your different units. So I really, really like that. I've been playing Path of Light and Shadow quite a bit, and I really, really enjoy it. I would definitely recommend it. If you like card driven deck builders with area control and sort of a more Euro style game. So, and Slay the Spire I'd recommend for anyone. It's fantastic. It's a really, really fun little deck building game, and I think I'll probably stream that at some point on like the weekend for fun or something like that. We'll see if we can do that. For media, we'll move on now, but those are the mechanisms for the week. So again, Path of Light and Shadow, the promotion mechanism, and then Slay the Spire, again, the card leveling up and sort of increasing your card pool. Very similar, but very cool. I really, really like them. So for media, I want to talk about Board Game Design Lab. This is probably the #1 go-to source for me when I'm listening to podcasts about game development, game design, and things of that nature. Again, I'll preface that by saying I listen to a lot, and you're going to hear about different ones every week. But the first one, for the first week, the inaugural week, is Board Game Design Lab. I spend a ton of time even going back and listening to old episodes that I may have missed or that I really, really want to listen to. Or if there's a topic that I'm struggling with, I'll sometimes look and see if there's a Board Game Design Lab podcast about it. Some of our success from Record definitely stems from going back and listening to things that different creators on the podcast said. I've been fortunate to be on the show. I think most of my advice was the mistakes we've made. I have mentioned to Gabe, but there's more mistakes. I have plenty more. We've made more mistakes, but I really, mine are mistakes that I think, it's easy to avoid now that the industry has gotten a little bit easier. There's some really good creators on there that are doing things like giving you insight into how to both market, develop, and manufacture games, and I definitely tap that advice on a regular basis. So if you are a game developer or you're interested in game industry development, or even just sort of interested in the process of that design, development and how it all works, I would really recommend the Board Game Design Lab podcast. There's also a Facebook group that's a real cool way for us all to interact, and I like that as well. I've actually copied some of that and put, we have a Record Facebook group where people can talk. So that's a really good resource. Gabe's also got a book coming out that's got some really amazing designers that have a number of tips and tricks. I haven't read the book yet. It's coming soon, so I backed it. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it. But it's really, really, really a great resource for designers. So the last thing is marketing. And this is a weird one to start. Marketing is an interesting thing. People don't generally like being marketed to. I don't really enjoy being advertised to when it's blatant. I just came from New York Toy Fair last weekend, where it was essentially marketing overload for me. I was going through and seeing so many different toys and games and all of this stuff, and it was so much information. It was too much. But you look at the different ways that people market things, and it can really, really vary from one to the next. I saw things, like banners, like old, vinyl banners stretched across the back of a booth, all the way to, a lot of paper flyers and handouts, and then demo stations with a bunch of instruments. I mean, Toy Fair's got toys and all sorts of different things. So the marketing was really interesting to me in that it was all seemingly dated. It was a dated marketing strategy. So I want to talk about a marketing strategy that I think is really updated, and I'm not sure that it's necessarily intended to be marketing, but it definitely is, and I really, really follow it well, and that's Stonemaier Games and Jamie Stegmaier, and how he markets his company, but also does so while also offering information to a lot of other designers. So this segment is actually sort of born out of watching Jamie's different segments, where he comes on and he'll talk about various things that are going on with Stonemaier, or various things that people want to ask questions. And again, you're welcome to ask questions anytime in this. I'll just always repeat them so that when we have the YouTube stream, we can go back and allow people to see what you asked. since it doesn't keep those comments. But anyway, Jamie does a neat thing where he's engaging with his audience, and I think that's a really nice way of marketing that's not incredibly offensive, that's not abrasive, and it's a really, really brilliant way to do things. And so again, I'm taking note and saying, okay, so we're gonna, instead of marketing in a way going, here's another link to another sale for another game, say what do you enjoy about this mechanic? What do you think about this particular media outlet? What do you think about this marketing strategy? And in my particular opinion, I think that it's a lot more fun for me if I can chat like this with those of you that care about this sort of thing versus just sending out links or emails and trying to push product or get email lists grown and things like that. It's not my nature to do those sort of things. So Kirk Dennison asks, what is next for Yanaguana Games? So we have 3 projects with new designers that I can't quite talk about. I'm really, really waiting on paperwork to come through on some of those, and then we're going to be able to talk about them. But we have 3 different projects with 3 different designers, and I'm excited about all 3 of those. For 2018, those are all planned to at least start marketing in 2018 at some point and start letting people know they exist. We're really, really early on testing some of those. One of them I'm really excited about. It's pretty solid. I've played it. It's ready in Tabletop Simulator, and I'm really, really ready to start sharing that one. We're going to get that one going very soon. And then a couple others are really early in development, but I'm really, really happy about those. And then, of course, Record. Fulfilling Record is number 1. I've got nothing but work to do to make sure that we keep our timeline going. And I'm getting ready, actually, probably in the next day or 2 here to hopefully release those backer kit surveys. So I did want to go back to the marketing point. So what Stonemaier does is, in my opinion, they don't market heavily other than, giving information. And then Jamie's blog has information about Stonemaier games, but it's also sort of encompassed in all this other information about game design, the industry, things that Jamie's doing in his regular life, things that they enjoy or don't enjoy about certain aspects of crowdfunding or retail or distribution. And I mean, I don't think there's ever a time I read Jamie's blog and I don't learn something. So I think that's a good model to follow. So I think it's more fun if we chat about these things like this rather than do a post or do a poll or any of those things. It's just more fun to me that once a week I can come on and share a cup of coffee with you and chat about this stuff. So I really think that what Jamie's doing is not intentionally marketing. It may just be that it's his way of engaging with his fan base and community, but it's a really, really solid way to also show people that you care about your product, that you're going to take the time to discuss it with them, that you care about the industry you're in, so you're going to discuss that as well, and then to share all that knowledge. Well, that's just, again, this is sort of a thing that's special about the tabletop industry, is that somebody who's as successful as Jamie, and there's other creators that do this, don't get me wrong, but this is just in this week we're talking about Stonemaier in particular, is someone as successful as Jamie is willing to say, oh, and here's how I did this, and here are the reasons I made these decisions, or here is the information that led me to stop using Kickstarter, or to not use X model of distribution any longer, or whatever the case may be, all the way to tax mistakes and things like that. It's really, really helpful for other creators like myself when I can go and tap that information of someone who's really conquered Kickstarter, in my opinion. I mean, Jamie has had some really successful projects with pretty large, heavy Euro games, which, again, while they do well on Kickstarter, they don't generally do well enough that you can sort of go, okay, we're set on that game. It's printed, we're good to go, and all that sort of thing, with tons of reprint possibility and things. I mean, a lot of times a big Euro gets its one run on Kickstarter and doesn't get a reprint. That's just a common thing. So I'm really, really impressed with what Jamie's done to both market his product, make sure his product is well received by customers, that it looks good. That's another big portion that I've come to learn, is that it really needs to look pretty no matter what it is. I mean, it's got to be a great game. You've got to have a game that plays well. But if it doesn't look good, the matter of the fact is, it's like there's so many games coming out that it's how much shelf space do retailers have? You guys have been in game stores. I mean, I think the last game store I was at most recently was roughly 1,200 square feet. So you can think about, with 1,000+ titles coming out a year, it's hard for them to decide which ones they're going to stock. So if something doesn't look good, it's easier for them to say no to it. So we're learning that as well. That was a lesson I've sort of learned through time and just watching what other people do with box presence and all that. And I'm really happy with how Record's box looks. I think the amplifier box turned out great. But all that aside, I think that we're going to start doing more of this. So I'll do a Monday sort of chat about these different things. I think I'll also start doing a Wednesday blog, which is just sort of my process of what I'm doing in design. Although I'm doing many more publishing things these days than designing as much, I will be at least keeping one design running at all times. And I do have a co-design running right now with an awesome designer that I'm really excited about, and it actually pertains to coffee. So as soon as that's something I can talk about, I will as well. That's as much as I can say for now. Steve Torres says, Stonemaier videos are great. I really enjoyed Druid City Games' video blog format as well. I really like James Hudson and that video format as well, Steve-O. It says, so far not as tip of the trade heavy, but it's cool to have an inside look at their process. Yeah, James, I think, is more focused on showing you how they do what they do and sort of letting you infer what you might want to take from that. Whereas Jamie seems to be telling you specifically, these are the reasons I came to these decisions in the industry. And I think they both have an incredible amount of value. I really like the production quality of James's videos and sort of like how incredibly well shot everything is, along with the content being engaging for the most part. So that's with Stonemaier. Some people, I think, if you weren't an industry fan, if you weren't into board games or you weren't into a tabletop thing, I do understand that Stonemaier's marketing strategy or what engagement strategy might be a little dry. So if you're not a board gamer and you go on and listen to Jamie talk about a mechanism he enjoys, or even something like this where I talk about a mechanic that I think is fun, it may be a turnoff. We're going to use these terminologies that are gamer centric and things like that. So if you're trying to appeal to a more mass market, it's possible that this is maybe not the best avenue. But I feel that as a gamer who generally sits around a table and chats with other people, that this is a better way for me to express what I'm feeling about different game mechanics that are going on or different media outlets I'm listening to, and share them, as opposed to a list or a bulletin. So it's just something we'll try. I also this way get to try a different cup of coffee once per week, which is fun. I drink coffee every day, but I'll try a different coffee. Yeah, so I really like Gabe Barrett's Board Game Design Lab, and again, it's mainly interviews. Interviews are harder in this, although we can do the 2-screen sort of stream. I think Gabe does such a good job of it, and he's so good at being he's such a great conversationalist. One thing also is that Gabe is helping other designers as well. I think that's an important part. Let's go back to the Board Game Design Lab for a second. Is that Gabe is doing an altruistic job of helping everyone make better games by bringing really good industry guests in and helping them get better at what they do by listening. You get to listen to Jamie talk about things, but also an amazing gamut of designers and publishers have been on Board Game Design Lab. I've learned a ton just listening to it on a podcast while I'm working. But the biggest thing for me about that podcast, the reason it's so easy to listen to, is the way that Gabe talks to guests is very genuine. So it's a very good conversational style. When I did the show with him, it felt like we were just chatting. I know when we were done, I said, "Oh, we're done? Awesome!" I was nervous, and now I'm not as nervous. So I can't believe it's already over. Gabe's very good at that. If you know anything about Gabe's, personal work, he's an amazing dude. He's an altruistic dude. He wants to help people. I think that's probably one of his driving goals in life, is to help people. And it's inspiring. I want to help people because Gabe wants to help people. So I really, really, really like Gabe. I think he's one of the best voices in terms of the design community, and is also a really just awesome person. So I tend to support BGDL quite a bit. But again, if it weren't valuable to me, I wouldn't be mentioning it. It's a great, great, great podcast. So yeah. Other than that, we're at about 20 minutes. I think that's 20 to 25 minutes is what I plan to do each week on these. If anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in. But yeah, so again, this was New England Coffee Centennial Reserve. It's pretty tasty. I would buy it again, absolutely. And Daryl Andrews says BGDL, Board Game Design Lab, is great, and Gabe is amazing. Just reinforcing what I agree with there. It's that no argument from me. Gabe is 100% amazing. He's inspired me to do a few things, and that's just he's an awesome person. I really, really, really like Gabe, and he's also one of the few people in the industry that's in the media side that doesn't request that I send him something for doing media. I don't owe him a board game or anything, although I generally try to make sure I take care of everyone. Many people request it. Gabe's never asked me for a thing. That's it. It's just one of the nicest things. That is amazing. So 50% of this coffee is tax deductible. You're absolutely right, Kirk. I'll be writing off half my coffee purchases from now on. That's what this is all about. No, but this is New England Coffee Centennial Reserve. I have the link. Unfortunately, it says out of stock on their website. I think it was just a certain run of stuff, but I have some in my local grocery store, and I may buy up some extra. It's pretty good. My favorite mechanisms this week, again in a tabletop and a video game, were Path of Light and Shadow, the leveling up of one card into another, but you know what the promotion is going to get you. So you know what you're leveling up. It's a deck builder, but it's a deck builder where you know where your promotions are going. Similar is Slay the Spire, the video game that I said I like, because you're leveling up cards very similar way. I like it a lot. Media, again, Board Game Design Lab, can't say enough good things about it, but you guys definitely check it out. If you're interested in design and you're not listening to it, I think you might be doing yourself a disservice. Like it's that essential of a piece of my design toolkit. So and then marketing, Stonemeyer Games, you probably know about them if you're listening to this, because I've said many times I really enjoy what Jamie does. So, and guys, that is Monday Morning Mug Mentions Week 1. We'll be back next week, and I'll have some more information and a new cup of coffee. So thanks for checking it out, and you guys have a wonderful afternoon.